Welcome to Mobile Math, math lessons on the go. Today's learning goal, by the end of this lesson, I should be able to divide positive numbers using a group subtraction model. And again, that will be without the use of a calculator or any other technology. Quick reminder, multiplication is a shortcut for repetitive addition. Division is a shortcut for repetitive subtraction. And that's one of the ideas we're going to focus on today. Some of the forms that we show division. We have a fraction form, the traditional line with two dots form, and a long division form. We're going to focus on, out of the cases, in terms of what does division mean, we're really going to focus on how many groups of 2 can I subtract from 8, or just the whole subtraction model is going to be our big push today. So there are various names for this, sometimes called European division, Dutch division, Continental division. I'm going to call it group subtraction. So that's going to be our approach today. Is we're going to be doing a lot of subtracting from numbers, but we're going to try and use some of our multiplication facts that hopefully we're a little bit more comfortable with. And we're going to stick with our friendly multiplication facts, so numbers that you, as the solver, are comfortable with. So if you find the numbers I use are too big, then you can use smaller numbers. If you find the numbers I'm using are too small, then you can use bigger numbers. It's totally up to you as the person solving the problem. So for a quick refresher, reminder, when we did 16 divided by 2, we broke it up into 2 equal groups, and we found that 8 was going to be in each group. I want to focus on case 2, and I want to streamline this and make it a little faster. So I did repetitive subtraction, so I have 8 subtractings of 2 here, so I had to take away 2 from 16 8 times to get my answer of 0 near the bottom here. So 16 divided by 2 is 8 now. There's got to be a way of doing this a lot faster, and there is, and that's what we're going to look at today. So we're going to start with 32 divided by 4. So how many 4s can I subtract from 32? And what's nice about this model is, because I'm going to use friendly numbers, it can be different for each person, and I'm going to do it 2 different ways for you here. So if I'm looking at how many 4s fit inside 32, I know that 5 groups of 4 is 20. So I'm going to write down a 20. I'm going to put a little 5 over here, and I'm going to subtract those 5 groups of 4s, but I'm going to do it all at once, and that's what makes this method a little quicker. So if I subtract 20 from 32, I'm left with 12. And then when I look at this, I think, well, because I'm comfortable with my multiplication facts, I know that 3 groups of 4 is 12. And when I subtract 12 from 12, I end up with 0 at the end, or no remainder. And if I count up these terms here, I have actually subtracted 8 groups of 4 from 32. Now if I was to approach it a different way, maybe I recognize that 4 times 4 is 16. So if I subtract 16 from 32, I'm just going to make a little note over here of the 4 groups of 4 that I used. I get a result here of 16, and then I might say, well, I could subtract another group of 16, and that would be 4 groups of 4, and again I end up with 0 left over. If I total those up, you'll notice I get the same value of 8. Now I could just continuously subtract 4 from 32 and go all the way down the page, but that's a little bit slow. But if that's what you need to do right now, then totally use that method. But it is going to fill up a bit of paper, and it's going to go off my screen, so I can't do that. So let's try another one here. 128 divided by 8. So how many 8s can I subtract from 128? Well, I'm going to start with the nice friendly number of 10. So 10 times 8 is 80. So I'm just going to make a little mark over here of 10. If I subtract 80 from 128, I end up with 48. If I know that I have 10 groups of 8 is 80, 5 groups of 8 should be half of that, or 40. So I could do another 5 groups pretty quickly, and I'm left with 8 left over. And then I just have to subtract one more group of 8 to have a 0 left over, and then I total up these numbers, and I find I get a 16. I might go a little bit bigger, or I might go a little bit smaller. Maybe I do a couple of groups of 40. So I might see that, all right, I'm going to subtract 40 from the first group here of 128. So I'm left with 88. And I'll put a little 5 over here. I'm going to subtract another 40. So I put another 5. I'm going to subtract one more group of 40. and I'm left with 8, and then I'm going to subtract my final group of 8 here and mark that down as 1, and if I total that up, I still get 16. So the choice is really with you, the person solving the problem. So pick numbers that you're comfortable with. Let's try something a little bit more challenging here. 308 divided by 14. So how many 14s can I subtract from 308? Now again, I could go down the page and just keep subtracting 14s. That would work, but it would take a long time. So I'm going to look at the friendly number of 10 times 14. So that would be 140. And I'm going to make a little mark over here of 10 groups of 14 subtracted. So when I subtract this, I end up with 168. I see that that's greater than the previous 140, so I might as well subtract another group of 140 and mark down that 10. I'm left with 28. And then I might notice that 28 is just 2 groups of 14. So if I subtract those, I'm left with no groups left over. I mark down the 2. I add these up, and I come up with 22 groups of 14 can be subtracted from 308. Let's try one with really big numbers. So 1,984 divided by 124. So how many 124s can I subtract from 1984 or 1,984? So again, I'm going to start with a nice friendly number of 10. So 124 times 10 would be 1,240. And you may have to start with smaller numbers. That's okay. Maybe you can go bigger numbers. Who knows? So if I subtract these, I have 744 left over. Now, I'm just going to come over here on the side and do some planning out here. If 10 groups is 1,240, if I half my 10 groups to 5, I would half my 1,240, and I would have 620 left over. So if I look over here at this 740, I could still subtract 620 from it. So let's do that. And I'll mark down that I subtracted another 5 groups. And then, hey, look, I've got 124 left over. So that's a nice, easy amount. I only need one of those. And my total here would be 16 groups of 124 fit inside 1,984, or could be subtracted from 1,984. And as long as my multiplication facts are kind of comfortable, I could do this fairly quickly. So please press pause on the video and try the following. So we want to find the quotient for the following. So please press pause now. Okay, welcome back. So let's take a look. 18 divided by 3. So how many groups of 3 can I subtract from 18? Well, I might be pretty comfortable with that one because we've been pushing some of these tougher problems. And I might see right away that that is 6 groups of 3 can be subtracted, and I get my answer. So 18 divided by 3 is 6. 7, how many 7s fit into 42, or how many 7s can I subtract from 42? Well, I might start with my 5s. 5 groups of 7 is 35. That leaves me with 7 left over. If I subtract one more group of 7, I have a total of 6 groups of 7 fit inside 42, or can be subtracted from 42. And then lastly, how many 15s fit inside 360? Well, I might use my groups of 10 again. So I know 150, that's 10 groups of 15. So if I subtract that, I end up with 210. So that's another group of 150 I could subtract. I end up with 60. And then I might recognize that I can have 4 more groups of 15. And if I subtract those, I have nothing left over. So when I total up the side here, I have 24 as my final answer. So 360 divided by 15 equals 24. So thank you for watching. Please watch again and pause where you may have had difficulties. And good luck in your future math problems.